Hi, and welcome back to the Tomb Tales podcast, formerly known as the Tomb Raider podcast. So, yeah, there was a name change, and yeah, I don't feel that dumb anymore. So, that's why I changed it. And the name Tomb Tales, well, it got stuck while streaming on Twitch. So, yeah, that's why it's Tomb Tales now. We finally reached Tomb Raider The Last Revelation, the game that actually made me want to start this podcast in the first place. But before we dive into the game itself, let me catch you up a little bit. One of the highlights, I became a Twitch affiliate. Well, this happened a couple of months ago already, but, well, not since the last English episode. It was a huge moment for me, and streaming has been really, really fun. The community there has grown bit by bit, nothing massive, but enough to make the streams feel alive. Chatting and answering questions, getting tips, it changed the feel of playing it in a really good way. So, this is another translation of 3 German episodes for The Last Revelation, and it's, well, kind of a summarize. And I keep reading on a script, which is, well, still new to me because I like to do it more intuitive. But let's just dive into it. Before we jump into story and gameplay, I want to set the tone a bit because The Last Revelation has this very specific atmosphere tied to its release year. This game came out in 1999 and it's set in 1999. So it sits right inside that whole Y2K end of the world cultural moment. The idea that the year 2000 might bring something huge or disastrous. And the game uses that theme in a subtle but very cool way. I didn't actually play it right when it came out. I played it in 2000 after finishing my apprenticeship when I had just gotten my first PlayStation. I remember almost buying a Sega Dreamcast instead. And fun fact, the Dreamcast version has a Paul Oakenfold remix of the Tomb Raider theme that you can't hear anywhere else. Well, now there's YouTube, and I think I will have a link in the description. That whole time in my life is really tied to this game for me. I had my first job, was still living at home, finally had a bit of my own money. I bought one of those ridiculously expensive DVD players, and my first DVDs were The Mummy and The Blair Witch Project. So yes, full Egypt obsession era here. And of course, my laptop ran Windows Millennium Edition, which was chaos, but somehow still nostalgic, from the point of view of now. Then I moved into my first apartment and finished the game there. Just really strong early 2000 vibes all around. Alright, so now that the stage is set, let's talk about the game itself a bit more. Because The Last Revelation is where a lot of things shift in the Tomb Raider series. One of the first changes you notice, especially if you played the game in German like I did, is Lara's voice. In the first and the second game, Lara was voiced by Gabriele Libach. Starting in Tomb Raider 3 and then here in Tomb Raider 4, we get Marion von Stengel, who, fun fact, also dubbed Angelina Jolie in the Tomb Raider movies later on. And I remember sitting in the cinema, hearing that voice and thinking, yes, that's her, that's Lara Croft. It just fit perfectly. If you play in English, Lara is voiced by Jonelle Elliott from this game through Angel of Darkness. Her tone in TR4 especially has this slightly younger but still sharp and confident energy, and I love that. From this game onward, the music was composed by Peter Cranelli, and honestly, the soundtrack from Tomb Raider 4 is permanently burned into my memory. The atmosphere is so strong, sometimes haunting, sometimes mysterious, sometimes completely overwhelming. So, the actual story. Lara travels to Egypt to uncover the Amulet of Horus, and in doing so, she accidentally releases the god Set, basically chaos itself. So the entire game is about trying to undo what she has done before the end of 1999. It's honestly such an interesting twist. Lara isn't stopping someone else's disaster this time. She's the disaster. And now she has to fix it. And then there's Werner von Croy, This is where he enters the Tomb Raider universe. Lara's mentor, rival, and complicated don't know if I trust you, but also you shaped my entire life choices figure. The dynamic begins here, and it only gets more intense later, especially in Angel of Darkness. Cambodia, Angkor Wat, the training levels. The game opens with young 16-year-old Lara traveling with Von Croy in Cambodia at Angkor Wat. These are the famous training levels, and I'll be honest, when I was younger, I hated them. You couldn't skip the tutorial cutscenes, and if you replayed the game a few times, hearing Lara, "This is how you jump," for the 50th time, it gets old really fast. But in the remastered version, bless, you can now skip those tutorial cutscenes. And the controls are smoother, which helps a lot, especially in the later part, the iris chase. In the original version, that section made me want to throw my controller. The camera, the ledges, the timing, pure chaos. But in the remaster, it's definitely easier. But if you're trophy hunting, you have to do it twice. One path if you collected all golden skulls, and a totally different path if you didn't. So yes, I sprinted more than once, but eventually I got there. Heading into Egypt, Valley of the Kings. And now we move to Egypt. This is where the game really starts to feel like Tomb Raider again. Sand, tombs, puzzles, mysterious guides, jackals crossing your path. There's also the Jeep chase. And look, I'm just going to say it, I do not enjoy vehicle levels in classic Tomb Raider. The Jeep controls are like refrigerators with wheels. A cursed refrigerator. And of course, there's a trophy for overtaking the other Jeep at the right moment. I needed a couple of tries, some deep breathing, and maybe a little bit of swearing, but eventually it happened. So, after the Jeep and the Valley of the Kings, we move on to Karnak. And Karnak has something very funny going on. There's a game inside the game. Literally. You play this little puzzle challenge that determines whether you get the shortcut or the long, scenic, why am I still here route. And of course, because I was trophy hunting, I had to do both. Winning the game, cool, satisfying. Losing the game on purpose, somehow way harder than winning. I was like, how do I lose correctly? Because your brain is trained to solve Tomb Raider puzzles, so intentionally failing one is like, no thoughts, just do it wrong, which is harder than it sounds. When you eventually make it through Karnak, you end up on the train to Alexandria. This level has always stressed me out. There's lots of timing, lots of jumping between train cars, lots of, oh, I'm dead again. But thank the remaster gods, quick save! Quick save saves your life. Alexandria, the big hub area. Then we arrive in Alexandria, and this becomes our main hub for a while. This is where the game does something I love. You keep coming back to Jean-Yves. You check in, talk to him, get clues, figure out what to do next. It makes the world feel connected, not just a string of unrelated levels. The first thing we do here is head to the Egyptian Adventure, which is basically a discount theme park tomb. Like, imagine Tomb Raider but made with cardboard, plastic skeletons, and terrible lightning. It's hilarious. There's even a fake mummy jump scare, and yes, there is a trophy for getting jump scared. The trophy name references The Mummy, the movie, which is perfect. Then we find a crossbow, solve some classic puzzles involving mirrors and pressure plates, and finally move into the deeper parts of Alexandria. This whole section is peak Tomb Raider for me. Mystery, puzzles, music, and atmosphere. From here we head into the catacombs, and I want to mention something really interesting here, because I never knew this until I went back with the official strategy guide. In the guide, there's literally a printed sticky note that says something like last-minute changes. It explains that a refined version of the game arrived right before the book went into print, and because of that, the beginning of the catacomb levels was changed. So the guide had to add revised instructions labeled with N1, N2, N3, meaning new steps. And suddenly, something finally made sense to me. Because when you're in that small area of the catacombs going from one space to another, the game keeps loading between rooms. Which is strange because usually in Tomb Raider, you only get loading screens when you move between much bigger sections. But here, walk 3 steps, loading screen. Walk back, loading screen. I always thought, why is this happening here, of all places? And now I know. It wasn't originally designed like that. It was reworked right at the end, so the level structure didn't fully match what became before. From here we go into the Poseidon Temple, where the huge water shaft puzzle begins. The Poseidon Temple has this huge central shaft that's completely dry at first, and you have to go around collecting tridents to slowly fill it with water. It feels like this satisfying slow build-up, and when the water finally rises, you can dive into the center. Instant dopamine. Then comes the Lost Library, which is one of my favorite areas in the whole game. You get a planet alignment puzzle, a flame serpent maze, clues hidden in the environment that you have to spot using the binoculars. It's thoughtful, clever, and weirdly peaceful at the same time. After that, you go to the Hall of Demetrius, and there is a trophy with 3 assassins you have to get. It was a struggle, and I did this during what I called Drinking for Trophies night. I was very proud of myself when I finally did it, but I forgot to unmute my microphone again. This is something that still happens all the time for me. So the entire victory moment celebration was silent. Pharos Lighthouse and Palace of Cleopatra, the point of no return. We enter the Pharos Lighthouse, and connected to that is the Palace of Cleopatra, and this is the point of no return. Once you're in, you can't go back to Alexandria or the other hub areas. This is where we gather the pieces of the armor of Horus, and things get weird. There is a Lara doppelganger, very reminiscent of the Bacon Lara from Tier 1. She's unsettling, shiny, and creepy. Do not hit her. If enemies hit her, you take damage. Love that for us. Then there's a trophy where you have to drown skeletons. Not shoot them, not blow them up, just gently encourage them into a pool. It is the funniest thing to watch. Me walking backward, leading a skeleton like, come here, come on, almost here, good boy, and then splash. Beautiful. We also have to defeat 2 little bosses at the end, and to get a trophy you have to do it with the pistols only. I found a corner where they couldn't touch me. And after that, we arrive in Cairo. And listen, every longtime Tomb Raider player knows Cairo is a journey. This section has a giant fire-breathing creature, locust swarms, gun turrets, and the motorbike. And the controls, well, they are like a brick tied to a rocket. The Dark City is quiet and strangely green-tinted. It really does feel like the world is ending, and you're just one person trying to push back the collapse. There's something heavy in the air here, and I actually love that mood, even if it drove me slightly insane while playing. You can't reach the citadel because the fire creature is blocking it, so you team up with a soldier who has this heartbreaking idea. He'll help you create a kind of makeshift car bomb, and he'll drive it into the creature himself. He knows what that means. Lara knows what that means. We know what that means. And then he does it anyway. It's one of the most unexpectedly emotional moments in the game for me. Meanwhile, there's also a Minotaur running around Cairo. The game doesn't tell you this clearly, but you don't kill it. You have to trap it. And if it isn't trapped right, it follows you and shakes the ground so hard that you literally can't climb. So picture me running across rooftops, locusts biting me, motorbike parked at a weird angle, trying to remember where the lever is, and the Minotaur is just like boom, boom, boom. The adrenaline, high. The elegance, none. But when he finally gets trapped behind the gate in the mosque, the relief is real. I actually cheered loudly. with the mic on. Finally, the Citadel and then onward to Giza. Once the fire creature is gone, you enter the Citadel and find Jean-Yves again. He's alive, thankfully, but also pretty distressed, because Von Croy has now crossed fully into "this is bad" territory. And Lara knows this is the final stretch. Then we head to Giza. The pyramids, the Sphinx, the mastabas, classic Tomb Raider territory. There are dark tunnels, hidden chambers, more puzzles, a couple of slightly rude enemy placements, and some trophy chaos like throw these scorpions into the same grenade blast. At this point, I was basically a professional scorpion herder, a life skill I never asked for. And then we reached the Temple of Horus. The final moment. This ending is different from the usual Tomb Raider finale. There's no dramatic boss fight where you unload every weapon you've hoarded for the whole game. There's no giant monster showdown. Instead, Lara awakens Horus to battle Seth. A god fights a god, and Lara is not the hero in that fight. She's the one who steps back and lets ancient power resolve what she started. But the temple begins collapsing, and now it's just run. No thinking, no puzzles, just survival. And even if you know the ending already, there is still that drop in your stomach. Lara reaches the exit, the ceiling collapses, Werner reaches out, he hesitates for 1 second, and she falls. Silence. Sand. Gone. Lara is buried, presumed dead. And here's the wild thing. This wasn't just a dramatic ending. The developers were exhausted from yearly deadlines. They generally planned to end the series here. Lara was supposed to stay gone. But of course, she comes back. Just not the same. And we'll talk about that when we get to Angel of Darkness. Bonus content that never happened. There was supposed to be a gold edition of Tomb Raider 4 with extra levels set in New Orleans, for example. It got cancelled. There are videos of early test builds online. I'll put some links in the description. We did get a small extra, the Times exclusive bonus level, which is short but interesting, like a mini side story. There's also a cut level called the Valley Temple, which would have fit between 2 Giza sections. It exists in unfinished form on YouTube, worth a look if you're into development history. Where I am now. At this point, I've finished all the 6 remastered games and most of the trophies. I have 1 Angel of Darkness trophy in the Louvre and all of the New Game Plus trophies. And yeah, I will do that in the next couple of weeks and months. But there was an announcement of not just 1, no, but 2 new Tomb Raider games. One in 2026, it's a remake of the first one, and another one coming out in 2027. I was so thrilled when I heard that and when I saw the videos. And yeah, I'm looking forward to 2026. There's still a lot of Tomb Raider stuff to do. Well, I have to continue this podcast in German, in English. I have to continue the streaming and excitedly waiting for the new game and also waiting for the board game, which comes out in 2026 as well. And yeah, there is also the 30th anniversary next year. So let's see what else we get. And yeah, I'm still happy about everything, about 2025, about my Tomb Raider storyline. And yeah, so I'm excited. I'm looking forward. And yeah, thank you for listening to me, watching me, and I'll see you guys around. Have a good couple of holidays. Have a good start into the new year. There will be some bloopers coming next, because well, there are some bloopers. And that's it for tonight. Radar out. Let me, especially for the final. You play this little puzzle challenge. Blah. Figure out what to do next. What to do next. The official There is a Lara doppelganger. Very reminiscent. Reminiscent? No, very reminiscent of the Bacon Lara glitch, not glitch, and the motorbike, which controls, well, like a brick tied to a rocket. And if it's, well, the pyramids, the Sphinx, the Sphinx? It exists in unfinished form on YouTube. The Poseidon Temple has this huge central shaft that's completely dry at first. And you have to... Sorry.